what I'm at least seeing is what a lot of folks thought was going to be just kind of temporary with, the political climate, with, changing trade conditions, AI investments, the way the workforces were, restructuring. I think a lot of people thought that that was going to be temporary and that, interest rates were bounce back and things would start to shift back to what we saw maybe pre-COVID or during COVID. And I think the reality is that the companies are feeling less confident in their ability to really predict what's happening next, what's going to happen next. And because of that, we're starting to see a lot of uncertainty show up in businesses, which is impacting like how they're making purchasing decisions, how, procurement and finance, the finance team are approving, purchases, those sorts of things. So I think we are seeing an impact that is going to be more long term, and CS teams should start shifting if they haven't already to really be prepared for what's to come.
It's funny that I love that you asked her what her business model is, because we never used to ask that question, right? Because it's all just subscription or licenses, and plus subscription. But it wasn't, it was more rare to see the usage-based business model. And it's still pretty rare to see outcome-based, because you have to have agents usually that are actually doing something that you can say this is accomplished and, you can sign off and it's been done, kind of thing. But, either way, whether you're outcome-based or whether you're consumption-based, like you have to connect it to the value that the customer is getting. Is it generating revenue or is it saving them revenue? And if you can't connect that usage or that the additional outcomes to some sort of revenue generated or saved, then it's really hard for them.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Customer Success Talks, Real Challenges, Experts Advice, the podcast dedicated to helping those transitioning into customer success and early career customer success managers. I'm your host, Byron Toruño, Customer Success Manager. And I know that I always start with, this is for everyone transitioning into CS and early career CSMs, but the party is for everyone, of course. And I think that on every episode, there's a lot of things to learn. Maybe some you are already applying, other ones you can learn, and other as well. We are open to hear your opinion and how you are also dealing with every situation, every challenge. And I really want to appreciate, again, all of the love that I have been receiving through LinkedIn about the podcast. So that's really, really motivating to end a week with all of those messages. So I really appreciate that. And today's going to be another amazing episode where we're going to be talking about something that is happening today. So today's episode is being recorded in July 2026, and it's actually a topic that is burning right now and it's happening in the market. The global market and how it's actually impacting our roles as customer success managers. And I was doing a research, and there's a report from Churn Zero. It's called the 2026 CSM Confidential. And I found that 83% of customer success managers now own revenue. Only 60 feels ready for it. And the CS market is shifting. And when when SaaS shift, customer success moved with it as well. And we will be talking about SaaS because it is a market more broad. We will then go hitting a little bit more deep into specific topics. Customer success, we know it's a philosophy. There's a lot of things there's different definitions of it, but it's mainly being used right now in the SaaS industry. So that's also another focus that we will have. And today, although 83% of customer success managers own revenue, but only 60 feels ready for it, that's going to be part of what we will be talking about today, because one of the topics is going to be, if you are in customer success with the market, how it's behaving right now, what can we do to thrive? What can we do to become even better when the market is how it's moving right now? And for that, we have two amazing leaders here with us. And I will call this full house. We have two. Normally there's one-on-one conversation, but today I have the pleasure of having two amazing leaders. And let's start with Jan Yon, who is an award-winning customer success leader with over 20 years in tech, including VP of Client Services through 2 startup exits. Probably you saw a lot of shit hitting on the fan there when it comes to startups. But yeah, I kind of have the feeling. And since 2020 to 2016, 10 years now, you have coached hundreds of CS leaders on growing revenue, aligning go-to-market, and earning real executive respect in the AI era. And when you're not doing CS, Jan, you are hiking, you're playing pickleball, and spending time with your husband and two beautiful rescue cats. So my question is, are you playing on a tournament for pickleball? Are you going to the Olympics for that? What is the plan with it?
My husband's very close, maybe best friend since he's known him since age 5.
Wow.
Yeah, right. He had a whole pickleball business, and he's always doing like tournaments and things like that. And he's really good at matching people with what your skill level is and things like that. And it's just always a lot of fun. And there's always, they go out afterwards and things like that. So whenever we want to pick up pickleball, we go to an area in LA called Westchester. Because Mike knows what he's doing. So, and it's just really friendly and fun. So, yeah, no, pickleball's great. Like if you wanted to play tennis but you're not very good at it, go play pickleball.
I thought it was paddle. Paddle was for that.
Oh, no, I think that's is that that's the game that they play in Europe, right? What
Yeah.
did you say? Yeah. It's very similar. Yeah, it's like Anyway, we won't get into all the mechanics. You play pickleball. No one's interested. But we could turn this into a pickleball.
I was gonna say
No,
pickleball podcast.
Want to go
Yeah,
there?
but no, just one last question. So you play against your husband one-on-one. Who tends to win?
No. You play as a pair. You play doubles more. You can play one-on-one, but mostly you play 2-on-2. Yeah.
But I'm sure you've played one-on-one with Mark before.
Well,
Who wins?
Anyway, well, he used to really play tennis, so he knows what he's doing, but I can get lucky,
Okay.
I've got this strategy. It's very much it's great because it's very much a strategy. It's about getting up to the short game, and this thing called the kitchen. Anyway, I won't bother you with it. It is fun. It's just it's easy to pick up and it's fun.
Yeah. So I just found an interesting report about pickleball. No, I'm just kidding. Let's continue.
Today's episode is actually all about
87% of people in the US. But then we also have with us Ralphie White, an award-winning customer success leader with 16 plus years building and scaling post-sales teams across AI, developer platforms, and digital identity. Named 2023 CS Leader of the Year and a 3 times top 100 CS strategist. She's known for turning customer success into a company-wide growth engine. And there's a special focus on this, which is the next evolution, AI first CS teams, which just by that, Rafi, that could be completely another episode, but there's more about this. You have a beautiful, for me, it's a beautiful point of view about CS, that CS isn't just a department, it's the operating system for how customers' signals move through a company. Welcome to Customer Success Talk, Rafi.
Thank you.
But
I
you
don't.
did not mention her 5 kids.
I was gonna say, I don't do pickleball, but I am a mother of 5.
Wow,
And
okay.
I will soon be a grandmother in about 8 weeks. So
Oh,
I'm
congrats.
excited about that too. Yeah. Thank
That's
you.
nice. I'm going to fire the person who's doing the research right now. I promise you. Like, dude, like, come on. We missed that. I'm so sorry.
You're gonna fire ChatGPT.
Yeah. I burn all of those tokens for nothing. So, Rafi, you are really busy when you are also outside of CS.
Yes, I am. All the mom things, sports, kids in college, all the things. So I'm loving it. We just relocated to North Carolina, which has been fun so we can be closer to family. But yeah, I'm enjoying the new world of CS and being a mother. And again, soon to be grandmother. Like that's just, I need to find a badge or like a shirt that says soon to be grandmother.
Next
'Cause I
level.
think
Yeah.
that's the most exciting thing that's happening in my life right now.
Oh,
Like
that's nice.
Yeah.
Well, I have today what we're going to be talking about is the global market, right? And I really appreciate both of your time being here with me today and sharing all of these interesting conversations that you're having and all of those 36 years combined of experience in CS. And probably you have seen CS changing in so many times, so many focuses out there, right? And the first is about I want to first start by just hearing what you're actually learning and what are you consuming with those conversations that you're having with CS leaders, with customer success managers, with directors, besides anything, any political situation or anything that is comes with any market pressure. I just want to know, what are you actually hearing about the market right now from all of those conversations? Rafi, would you like to start?
What a lot of folks thought was going to be just kind of temporary with, the political climate, with, changing trade conditions, AI investments, the way the workforces were, restructuring. I think a lot of people thought that that was going to be temporary and that, interest rates were bounce back and things would start to shift back to what we saw maybe pre-COVID or during COVID. And I think the reality is that the companies are feeling less confident in their ability to really predict what's happening next, what's going to happen next. And because of that, we're starting to see a lot of uncertainty show up in businesses, which is impacting like how they're making purchasing decisions, how, procurement and finance, the finance team are approving, purchases, those sorts of things. So I think we are seeing an impact that is going to be more long term, and CS teams should start shifting if they haven't already to really be prepared for what's to come.
And it's interesting because Ralphie and I talk about these things all the time anyway. So we've talked about some of this stuff in the past. And I really think too, when you're talking about like the global shifts, the US is predominant in so many ways, right? Like if we get if we sneeze, everybody else is getting a cold kind of, you know,
Hmm.
relationship sort of thing. And certainly right now is no different. But I think what's starting to happen is there's some really big shifts happening geopolitically and economically because of that, right? Because of the way that Trump likes to just sort of move on his own, sort of bull in the china shop sort of thing. The allies that we've had traditionally have said, "Whoa, I guess we're going to have to take, really think about just our own stuff. We're not going to be leaning on the U.S. anymore." So you see Europe then starting to think about how to take care of some things independently that they would have looked at US for in the past. And that's not just like the military stuff. That's technology, that's everything, right? Right? Like that's going to change. Then also the US dollar has always been predominant and it still is. But, just when you see everything that's going on with the Hormuz Strait, and sometimes, it was Bitcoin that people or whatever, crypto that people are using for payment, but you also see that sometimes they're using the Chinese yuan, right? And so when you think about that, there's other types of predominant currencies that will be in play. And how that works is going to be interesting. And I think will eventually be used in some sort of way, and that made money more expensive. And so then that meant that it wasn't just growth at any cost. It was like, how you can be profitable and grow, right? And so that we have these interest rates now, like this is the new norm. And even
Hmm.
if, but then this is what Ralphie and I talk about too, that even if the interest rates went back down to being, basically close to zero again and all of that, um, even if money was super cheap, right? AI's in the mix now.
Right.
So everything's shifting and everything's changed now. And so there's no like going back, I would say. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that in the political situation, like what you just said, Jan, there's like so many depend. There used to be, I think there's still like a change happening on the dependency of the U.S. because it is just what it is. It's a huge country that it has the global effect. And I think that talking to my wife who studied political science, we'll now I'm kind of into this topic as well, which is good, but it's also sometimes it hurts. So it's how to manage that with all of
Right.
the situation. But I think that at least in Europe, there is a how like so many things changing new that this is like how to tackle that. There's still so many open questions into how we're gonna do this as a market.
Yeah.
How this is the
Hmm.
first time that or not the first time, but there's now more less wanna we wanna be free. We wanna how can we do this if we haven't done that in the past? And if we add
Yeah.
AI, where AI now like a lot of startups are just popping here and there because there are platforms that you just enter a sentence and it creates you a potential MVP of a product. And then you go to incubators and then you start growing. It's like
Yeah.
pricing is also a competition. So I think that in Europe, especially in Germany, it tends to have a lot of planning, and then taking action. But then when that planning actually ends and there's just going to be action that is going to be taken, there has been years already of delay. So that's where I think startups are also feeling it.
Well, and what you say about that, Baron, so like when software is so easy to build or relatively easy to build, then, that's why then a lot of the VCs are focusing on what is your moat, right? Like what makes it, and then also internally, people are talking about build versus buy. And that conversation happens every single day, right? Where they're constantly like, should we buy it or should we just build it?
Mhm.
And what's different about what they can do for us versus what we can do for ourselves? I mean, Ralphie, you guys are pretty much almost entirely exclusively build over buy, right?
Mostly, we definitely build first, and we iterate on the things that we build just to get a bit more, controllability. But also because we are an AI native company, AI first company, and we want our teams building. We want our teams using the tools that our customers are using, our customers are building. So that's really helped us really kind of be ahead of the game from a CS perspective, at least, because our skill sets are very different than what you see on a traditional CS team. We built our own CS platform, built by one of our CS engineers in house. And it's something that he has a roadmap for. He's constantly working with our labs team, our research team, our product team to make sure all the data that we need, our data team as well, all the data that we need is in the system in there. So I think it's really shifted how we function day to day overall, as things have gone forward. So
Yeah.
Ralphie, one question for you. Can we know what is the business model for the platform that you're working with?
we're consumption based.
That means that it's a percentage off base of what the customer. That's interesting. I
Yes,
think that's the what a lot of companies are shifting to, because
absolutely.
I found here a report that's from Silos 2026 SaaS Management Index. It served 218 IT leaders at companies with, in this case, over 1,000 employees. And the interesting part is that the number of software tools companies are using stayed flat. But even though they stayed flat, the spend grow 8% in a year. And the driver is because AI is being now added to that and it increases the prices for the customers. So I think that the pricing is also now making a big impact to our customers, that it makes it also hard for them to pay and then decide like priority wise.
Yeah. It's funny that I love that you asked her what her business model is because we never used to ask that question, right? Because it's all just subscription or
Yeah,
licenses, and
or
plus
hybrid.
subscription, you know? But it wasn't, I mean, it was more rare to see the usage-based business model. And it's still pretty rare to see outcome based because you have to have agents usually that are actually doing something that you can say this is accomplished and you can sign off and it's been done, kind of thing. But either way, whether you're outcome based or whether you're consumption based, like you have to connect it to the value that the customer is getting. Is it generating revenue or is it saving them revenue? And if you can't connect that usage or that the additional outcomes to some sort of revenue generated or saved, then it's really hard for them. Like if you take a look at, say, I know that like with Clay changed its pricing recently, and there's a lot of people who are like, yeah, I'm priced out now. I can't afford that because it didn't lead directly to revenue generated for folks when they just switched over that day. And the same with Gong is getting so that people are literally trying to reduce the number of seats that they have used or like cap what calls can be recorded, how much can be recorded, how much you can analyze with Gong because people can't afford it. So it's not closely connected enough to the value, or else people would say, great, this is fine because I'm making more money off of it.
Yeah.
Right. And that's the tension.
And I think it's creating a different environment for customer success too, because like you said, Jan, our customers are asking harder questions, just more around like, what business outcomes is this product helping me achieve? How quickly can I realize value? Could we do this with fewer vendors? Me personally, like I'm seeing that a lot with my customer base where they're looking to consolidate vendors versus working across multiple vendors in the voice AI space. They want to consolidate into a single vendor. Can they reduce their commitment or move to more of a consumption based model? So I think the more we see these shifts, the more CS teams are going to have to be able to answer these questions. And that to me, more than just like relationship building, it's more than the activity metrics and the, executive business reviews or quarterly business reviews that you tend to see in more of that SaaS model. It starts to shift to those harder questions. But I think the cool thing in that, in the environment that we're in, if you look at where CS sits, and if you've been doing CS kind of what I consider the right way, the uncertainty becomes the customer's behavior. And the CS team is usually the first team to see that behavior within a business,
Mhm.
even before the company starts to see it, whether it's in their financials, whether it's in their churn. And because of the seat we have, this is where we can start kind of shifting, as you said, Baron, to that more mindset as a company. If we're seeing these uncertainties, we're hearing from our customers the pressures that they are, experiencing because of the economy, because of this new environment, because of AI. Those are the things that we should be feeding back into our business as CS teams. So the business starts to shift to be able to handle that, long term.
Yeah. And that's the other thing too, is like you were talking at the very beginning, Bayman, about uh how there's more responsibility in CS for revenue. And there is, right? Because if you have that initial sale and that's such a small portion, like they might just be getting the initial commitment up front for like a consumption model, right? Or even for an outcome-based model. They'll do it in terms of commitment and not in terms of an annual contract in the same way. It might be a commitment over a year or some period of time, right? But regardless, what you're doing in CS then is you have to then get them to use it, right? Like so they say I'm gonna use this much, but they start here, like then you have to get them to that level or else you've left money on the table, right?
Yeah.
And it puts it at risk because they're not using the product as much as they thought they would. But if they start using more, that might be good news for you, but it may not be good news for them unless it is producing more revenue or saving, right? So you have to work with them, on that trajectory. And like, is there some way they would save, or is there something that leads them to be able to say, no, it's okay, we can overuse, finance department, give me more budget because we're making the company more money or something, you know what I mean? So like, it's just the way that you become responsible for revenue is different than when you're in a subscription model, right?
Yeah.
Because subscription model, you're like, okay, they're gonna, they're gonna renew or not, and we know it's all about onboarding and blah blah blah. But we kind of feel like we have a year to get it done, to get them to that happy place. And if they're happy enough, even though I don't believe in happiness, but you know what I mean. If they're using, if they're adopting, if they're getting value, whatever, then it's like, oh yeah, we can get them to, sign on for another year. But it's just very different game with consumption and outcomes, right?
Yeah, yeah. On a individual collaborator perspective, then this is my opinion, of course. I think that when we change from this consumption business model this what is the word? Business model, sorry. I think
Yeah.
it also
Yeah.
adds a lot of pressure because it's we need to show the value, but also change behaviors on the customer side to now it's not you're gonna pay monthly. It's now it's just like how can I say this? I have seen that when it's more business model, the customer tends to just let it there because maybe they're not seeing the value. Right. And if versus when we have a monthly fee, the customer has the pressure of actually using it more because they're actually paying for it. So then when there's competing platforms, as a CSM is going towards the customer and showing the value, like you said, but also how quick is the product is going to move. As Ralphie said, we are the ones who are receiving the customer feedback. We're given that internally, but then how quick is the product going to move? That is going to be just justifying going back to the customer. So, and this is the value. This is our roadmap. This is where we're going to see it. Because if it's not like that, is the customer might say, yeah, I'm going to go with other platforms that have already what you're offering and other functions because it's consolidating, like Ralphie said, everything once in place. So just to close what I'm trying to say is that consumption sometimes customer says, yeah, we're going to leave it there because it's a usage page and we're not paying monthly, but it also adds a lot of pressure to us. Does that make sense what I'm trying to say?
Yes, it definitely does. I think we're going to continue to see a shift in that area, and how it impacts just customer success teams in general. One of the things that I've noticed as because I've been consumption based for the last four companies that I've worked for, and I've struggled building customer success teams from a traditional SaaS perspective
Yeah.
because they were consumption based. And one of the things I learned is that usually CSMs are kind of the generalist. They own onboarding, they own adoption, they own technical questions, they own all the things. And they become kind of that catch-all team for a lot of the problems in consumption based, which I think a lot, even if you're hybrid or even if you're SaaS kind of introducing AI, you have to start thinking beyond CS just being the catch-all team for everything, because that's where you're starting to see the role disappearing. You're starting to see the shift in how CSMs, how CS teams operate disappear in that regard because a lot of the things that they were doing are starting to be automated. You're able to do account summaries; those are automated. You're able to do, meeting notes, taking your routine outreach, updating your CRM. Those types of things are automated, and it's very, very SaaS based on how playbooks were built in that regard. When you think about consumption, those things aren't as important, and you need to automate it. But the things you can't do are going to be around, let's say, diagnosing why technical use case is not progressing, translating that adoption into business value, navigating the architecture or compliance or any of those deployment barriers. Those are the things that humans are able, that need to do and will continue to be able to do. But what we're not doing is shifting our CS teams in a way to where we're balancing both the AI automation and what's needed from a human, regardless of the model, whether it's consumption based or a SaaS. The world is shifting around us. We have to start shifting the teams that we're building, the teams that we're leading, to move with how the economy and how everything is starting to shift. I've learned
Yeah.
one thing: most of my customers would prefer not to meet with us. We very rarely have customers who want to do a regular cadence with us
Yeah.
unless we're working on a new use case, unless we're trying to solve a problem. Otherwise, they're too busy doing the work on their side as well. So they don't have time to meet with 20 different vendors once a month to talk about usage or, what's on your roadmap. Those aren't things that customers have time to do anymore. So we've been really taking a step back and focusing on what is that difficult work that our CSEs, because we have customer success engineers, what is that difficult work that they can continue to do, and where can we automate away as the world's starting to shift around us?
Just to add here, it's so interesting because I have seen customers asking for phone numbers or chat. Like email is also dying. It's like chat is a quicker answer for them. So it's gonna it
Mhm.
could backfire us. But yeah, that's interesting that how things are changing.
Well, and the other thing too is like there are some skills that are becoming more critical, right? In terms of how to have difficult conversations and
Mhm.
discovery, right? Really, really being curious and understanding the why behind something is really important because then though you want to connect that with technical skills because what you can do once you understand the context and the tech stack and all of those things, then the way that you can actually solve problems for it, probably just by, putting in, basically vibe coding something, right? A
Yeah.
solution in it. Like that really changes your capabilities. Now, depending upon what the swim lanes are, right, at your company, how much of that you're going to do might get handed off to somebody else, but at the same time, like where because now there's like forward deployed engineers and there's CS engineers, or there might be a technical account manager. They might be named all different kinds of things, and you might have more than one of those, but still the way that you want to like the focus on building, like everyone should start feeling way more comfortable with building. Like that is a big difference in how we're going to change how we're working, right? Because you can build something very easily if you know what you want. And sometimes that means asking a lot of discovery questions and taking a minute to thinking about what the workflow is and drawing that out a little bit. And then if you know what you want and you put that into words and then have, you can literally just have the AI ask you questions and interview you to then flush something out, and then it can like build it, like you can go eat lunch and come back and it was built 45 minutes ago, kind of thing, you know.
It's the process. I
Anyway.
think it's the process behind building that sometimes is scary. Like just to start building it and learning and that change management of even knowing what is my intention first before I even know what I want. I think that's the scary because the easiest part is just gonna be like hit play and then start improving that. But I hear two voices. Like one says AI saving time, but the other one says AI is actually consuming my time.
Well, it's consuming time for sure. But really, I've got to make a plug for CX Exchange Success Hour and
Mhm.
for
Go
the
for it.
pretty much monthly sessions, master classes I've been doing about AI and CS. Because what I try to show every month in those two meetings is that it is easy, that you just, like the water's warm, dip your toe in, but then just jump in. Like I really, like I have, so every session, every month of Success Hour, you get the slides, you get the like the steps of what to do, whether you come live or if you get it from the website later. If every time I'm showing, in the master class for CS leaders, what's happening with AI and CS, it's all about the strategy, but also like, look at how easy it is. I literally show stuff that I built in the same time that it took me to build something in Canva. I can build the whole interactive app using AI, whether you're in Lovable or Claude or, ChatGPT these days is adding a lot of functionality. Like you can build it and it might be scary, but I just want to urge everyone who's listening to this, dive in, because the first time you do it, you're going to be amazed. And then you'll be like, oh, but I could improve it this way. I could improve it that way. And that's what eats up your time, because then you see what's possible. I might finally get some sleep because Fable 5, I don't think they're going to extend it another week. You know what I
Oh, I'm
mean?
so sorry.
Like, no, that's okay. I want some sleep eventually, but it's like when you realize what, and so these frontier models that one day won't even be frontier, like because something else will be frontier, but like what they're able to do and how much they can, bring together and synthesize and then act on, it's totally freaking amazing. It's so easy to spin up agents and sub agents and all of that. And I don't have to know the mechanics behind it at all. I don't, because AI is taking care of it.
I agree with that, but I also think there's like a level of reality that we have to think about too when you're saying that to a CSM or
Well, yeah,
someone in an
yeah, yeah, yeah.
organization
Yeah,
that may not have the they may not have the tooling, or if they do have the tooling to build with AI, they may be building on a foundation where their data is just
yeah,
crap.
yeah,
And the output of that AI is whatever they're trying to build, it's just not actually helping them do the work more efficiently. It's actually creating more time, in their day to day. In those situations, I highly, highly recommend CSNs to really start to become the voice of their CS department in a way that shows, hey, if we had this data, these are the things that we could start to unlock for our customer base. These are the insights that we could start to unlock, the signals we can start to unlock for, internally or for our customers. I think that's really important to call out because I see a lot of people jump in, let's start building, but
yeah,
then
yeah,
they
yeah,
realize what they're building is not
yeah.
factual. The data is not always accurate. And then there's not a level of validation that is being built into how people are building. We talk
Mhm.
about the, software development lifecycle. That thing, it just happened to disappear when AI came. No, it's still a thing. It's there's still a level of when you're building, there's still levels of keyway validation that you really need to go through. And I think a lot
Right.
of people jumped into building and using AI, and then now they're starting to realize this is creating more work for me because the foundational layer, the data
Mm.
layer wasn't addressed first. I
But
don't say, to me, that's not a don't stop building, you can't do it. start to shift how you're actually presenting that data in a way that elevates you as an individual, as an IC,
Yeah.
and can kind of help guide even your leadership team around how they should be thinking about AI, because every team needs an AI warrior. We
Yeah.
have one on our team, and they really focus on making sure what we're building is actually usable. And what's happened with that within our organization is usually about every other week, there's someone on our team that's showcasing something that they built with AI. And as a team, we're collectively giving them feedback. We're validating if what they built actually works for the team overall. And then we'll collectively make a decision around, do we want to make this a part of our day to day stack? Do we want to make this a part of what our team is using? So we don't have people using AI in a different way. So I want to address the reality piece of it, because I
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
it can be daunting to people for everyone to say, use AI, and they get to work and they either
Yeah.
don't have access or they have access to systems that are broken.
Yeah.
Well, and that's really true. There
I
is no company out there, if your data ducks are not in a row,
Right.
like you cannot operate in this AI world. You just can't. Your data has to be clean. And you have to really think critically. Like
Yeah.
critical thinking skills are so important, not just when you're working with the customer and questioning, but the data that you're generating. Like, is this real? And also then it's funny because, I also have that newsletter where I'm writing, about AI and CS, and I want to get into deterministic and non-deterministic because it's so critical. And people are like, what does that mean? But when you think about a calculator is deterministic, it 2 plus 2 is always going to equal 4 on a calculator. Whereas when you're thinking about non-deterministic, you're thinking about generative AI. If you have 100 numbers and you're trying to get an average from 100 numbers, Gen AI is going to take maybe a sample of like 20 and then
Hmm.
give you an average from it. And then you do it again and gives you an average of a different 20. And you do it again, the average of a different 20. And that's why you can come up with a different average, quote unquote, of these 100 numbers every time, right? And so like just knowing, and then like even when we were talking about models, knowing the models, what they're good at, what they're not good at, what you should use and when, knowing if your data is good, knowing what sort of system you're using. When you're building automation, and there's still absolutely a world for, a world where simple automation makes a lot of sense. Like you need to understand what you're doing and why, and what are you really trying to get to.
Hmm.
You have to think critically to really be able to use AI well. And if you were coasting along and you weren't really trying to understand something holistically, it's going to show. It's like, look out, your bloomers are showing,
Yes,
kind of
100%.
show.
Yeah, yeah. Everyone listening or seeing us as well, like all these sessions from Jan's community is gonna be in the description of today's episode, because it's also free, it's accessible, it's online as well. There are gonna be a lot of people who are there to help, and it gives a good understanding and really good hands-on on how to use AI. I also feel identified as an individual collaborator with what Rafi said as well about,
Yeah.
yeah, let's use AI. I know a company of a friend who's investing 20% of their budget this year only on AI everywhere. And
Yeah.
I do want to use it. I have spent time in my calendar just to build things on AI, but
Hmm.
there's always something that doesn't work. And then and then that's time where I should have invested on something else.
Yeah.
So maybe not everyone is so obsessed and so happy of actually using AI in building, but they are open to use it. So I love
Yeah.
the idea of having maybe someone dedicated on building use cases that then I can use and improve them, versus me trying to break my head into building something from zero.
Yeah. I guess I would just say that while it's definitely having someone who's really focused on it and getting the use cases and that sort of thing can be really productive for your team. Um, if you can be that person
Yeah.
who is that AI person on the team, you've got a golden career ahead of you.
Absolutely.
You know.
Absolutely. The when I'm interviewing the folks that are using AI that, in their daily lives that have built, it's very, very clear in interviews how they talk about the future of customer success, how they talk about their role. Because a lot of what Jan was mentioning around, going deeper, understanding the discovery questions that you need to ask, and really understanding your customer, you're practicing that when you're building with AI, because you're having to do that with yourself, trying to, uncover, like, what am I actually trying to build? What am I trying to accomplish? What is the value that I want out of this thing that I'm building? I think it's just good practice that improves your overall skill set as a customer success professional in general.
Yeah, yeah. And also, just when we were talking about the economics and all of this stuff, right? Like literally, because AI is possible, the investors who are investing in the tech, whether it's PE, private equity, or if it's VC, venture capital, like they're all expecting that their companies are only going to be successful if they're using AI and building AI native products and working with an AI first approach. And so I mean, I'm coaching a leader right now who literally has to make cuts to her team because the PE firm says these are our new ratios and we want everyone to follow it in terms of what percentage of revenue can be, spent, in sort of each department kind of thing. And and they're doing that to force you to start working in AI first practices.
Yeah. So in Europe, there is a funding that the European Union give to startups. And one of the fundamental requirements is AI, because it's also on startup wise, it's being political into who's there's a race for AI as well. And who's going to be the first one, who's going to be that
Mhm.
innovative. So AI is also there. It's not anymore about what's your mission, and the vision of the product. Is it going to be AI? Is it going to be innovative? Because I think there's a race out there as well.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Absolutely. You're going very fast.
Super. And I also want to ask about those people, those professionals who are thinking about getting into customer success as of today, with how there's a lot of competition in the market. Customers have even different options for similar use cases. The business model is shifting as well, and AI is kicking in. So there's a report from S&P Global. The report is called the AI and Labor Landscape 2026 report, and it found that AI adoption remains focused on productivity and revenue gains, and not specifically on headcount reduction. Would you both agree on this? Because my perspective is that, yeah, we're using AI. Companies are just want us to be productive, but the collateral effect is we're going to hire less people because our people can do more. So it's going to be hard to get into CS. What do you think about that?
I don't agree with that. I think, like what we just talked about, the reality is there's only
Mhm.
so much AI is going to be able to do right now.
Yeah, it's not God killed.
Especially in right, especially in our world. I think
Yeah.
it's very different when you start to think about in the engineering organizations, it's very different. But if you think about CS, the reality is we really have AI doing the things that I mentioned before, preparing account summaries, taking meeting notes, generating success plans, doing those repeatable processes, things that should be automated. I also think there's a lot of folks that are thinking AI strategy is actually just automation. It's not actually AI strategies. So that difficult work that the humans in CS isn't going away. Like you don't have AI restructuring a commercial agreement or aligning executive and technical stakeholders, identifying when a customer's business model is changing. Those things aren't things that AI is able to do from our perspective.
Right.
However, I believe our CS teams have been so far away from those things that it feels like AI is coming in and taking our jobs. It's not. It's pushing us to
Mm-mm.
do the things that we should have been doing all along. We should not have been doing those repeatable tasks. We should not have been more activity metrics driven. We should have really been value and outcome driven from the beginning. And that's what CS teams are being pushed to do. So if you look at companies where they're actually expanding CS teams, like my company, other AI, native companies specifically, they're expanding their CS teams to do exactly the difficult work because they've already automated away, or they're using agents to do all of the repeatable tasks.
So
Yeah.
the
And
sorry, then so
yeah.
AI is bringing more awareness to the role.
It's bringing more awareness to the role. I think it's giving us different signals to act upon, that humans have to actually do. Like we're able, all of that data that we used to talk about needing so we can be proactive, it's at our fingertips now. So now let's go be proactive is what I feel like that it's actually should be happening right now. Go be proactive because you have access now with AI to do all the things that we should have been doing versus us staying in this reactive mode that customer success has been over the years.
Yeah. And so, like, the days of gap filling, if you're doing this gap filling for a product, when the product should be so easy to build, well, then shame on the engineers and product. CS is definitely getting cut from that, so it's not that, and definitely teams are getting smaller. When you see companies with 100 million in revenue, right? Those used to be really big companies, right? Now, if they're AI native, and they're working with AI first practices, they're like maybe 200 people, depending upon, what's really necessary. So like, just the people are super powered in these companies and in these teams, right? And so while Ralphie is hiring, it's not that there aren't going to be jobs, but also what are those jobs? And now the type of the critical thinking and the familiarity with tech and getting rid of that fear of tech, getting rid of the fear of having difficult conversations, and instead leading with curiosity, like that's it. I mean, that's go all in on that. And if you're excited about those things, then great, that's the job for you. And if you have industry expertise, you take a look at like Harvey AI, and they literally 40% of their team has legal background, right? Because
Hmm.
you need to understand and think like a lawyer and understand what their workflows are, right? You think about like the better you understand like the customer, the more likely you're going to be solving the pain points because you understand those pain points, right? And so this is a time when there might still be some CS people who can switch from one industry to the next, but it's really about focusing in on the industry and really understanding that pain and the workflows and what you're solving for and how tech can solve for that, right? Like that's what you're doing. You're not gap filling. If you're still gap filling, you should leave that company because they're not going to make it.
Jan,
If you were
what do you
gap
mean
filling,
with
if
gap
you're doing a
filling?
bunch of administrative stuff,
Mm.
you go, leave. Get a job where you are doing the real work. Yeah.
Got
Because
it.
a
I think
lot,
it's
lot of companies will not be making it if they're focused on that.
Yeah, I think we're also seeing, like you're saying, it's like AI is pushing us away from that generalist CSM role. You're going to get more specialized roles. You're seeing it in the titles that are starting to change. If you look at how folks are hiring, for instance, we do customer success engineers, partner success engineers, because our team is more technically focused. But you're starting to see technical account management roles are in customer success. More commercially focused roles are now in customer success. And like Jan said, you're starting to see CS roles that are specific to healthcare, to fintech, to legal popping up. It's even things that we've kind of considered in various verticals within our business as well. So if you have that industry expertise, it's kind of leaning more into, that your specialty versus it being that generalist role that we're seeing. Again, I think that part of customer success is what's going away, not necessarily the humans in the loop
Yeah.
overall.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. But also taking action, right? It's like, yeah, we can have all the tools, but if the feedback is not being heard, or if the feedback is being heard, transfer. But then I'm not going to name a team, but if then internally within the company, if nothing happens with that feedback, although we brought it inside, and sometimes because like we're not perfect, maybe we didn't ask the right questions, we didn't also understood what the other departments want and need. But then if we did, and then for constraints, for long-term goals, there's going to be just a rigid form of working internally and nothing happens, then it's also going to be, it's a bit frustrating, I will say as well. So although we have all of these tools, it's also being aware of what is under our control.
Mhm. Well, yes, but it is a job, especially of the CS leader, to be able to translate that in ways that others in the business can understand what the customer impact is and thus what the business impact is, right? And where the opportunities are and where the threats are. And so part of what the CS leader needs to know is that vertical or your customers, very well, so that you are guiding, with the information that you have and the voice of the customer, you're guiding it to what the what your other teams need to do. But then, well, Ralphie, like you have it too. Like, I mean, everybody's talking to the customer. It's not like
Mhm.
just CS too, right? I mean, you should
And
talk about that.
this is why my mindset is CS is it's a model, a company model. It's not just
Yeah.
a team.
Yeah.
And that's why it's so important for it to be that way, because when churn is just a team's problem, it never becomes the company's problem. And you become the scapegoat, and you're, one of the first teams that have to, lay off folks on your team when you start to scale down, because you haven't tied your activities to revenue. You haven't shown what your team is actually able to do. So what we do is we kind of operate in this co-pilot models where whoever's driving, it could be different. If there's a product issue, product is in the seat with the customer. If it's an engineering issue, engineering is in the seat with the customer. That is how you actually, improve just company performance, how you improve your product, how you take that feedback and build it back into the product. All of those things are things that are really important for you to do. But it's also, to go back to what you were saying, it's discouraging when you are a CSN and you're giving this feedback and it's not going anywhere. Your product isn't improving. I will just honestly say that's a signal for you to really evaluate whether or not that company's for you. Because if you look at companies that are excelling, companies that are hitting that $100 million mark or going unicorn, those companies are doing things differently. Their customer success organizations are typically sitting in the center of their org. They are actually taking that feedback and building it back into the product. And if at this point in the world, if companies aren't realizing the importance of customer success, then as a CSM, you need to reevaluate the company that you're working for, because that's not going to change if your CS leader isn't doing the things that Jan just mentioned.
Mhm.
You are
Yep.
you are going so much ahead of what I had in mind.
Sorry.
Go
Sorry.
Love
there.
I
it,
We
get
love
go
it.
there.
passionate about these things.
Yeah, I feel it here. I'm in Germany and I feel all of that energy from both of you. But
Yeah.
we will touch on that part of those signals for when actually to rethink a little bit of where our next steps in a career is. But just one scenario I want to ask both of you to hear your perspective on when someone wants to transition into customer success, especially on the individual collaborator side. Let's say that I want to transition into CS, but I don't have any revenue number in my pocket, and I also haven't used AI workflows or anything tech related. And AI has been asked for hiring managers. There are a lot of respect in asking how are you using AI in your day to day. What advice would you give someone who doesn't have a revenue number and doesn't have any AI experience, but also sees AI as customer success as an opportunity? Maybe Jan, you want to start here?
Sure, yeah, absolutely. Well, first of all, you have to, I mean, it's easy whether you, I mean, I think it's worth the $20 a month for, to pay for a model and start using it, or, a platform, whether you're using ChatGPT or Claude. You can use some of the others, but you're better off just kind of starting with one of those two, especially Claude is just innovating in ways that's there's always something different happening with it available to you, right? And you need to just understand what that tool can do and just start building something for yourself. If you're doing a job search, I've got stuff over on CX Exchange Success Hour that will help you with that, where you can start generating documents and a portfolio and online and things like that. You've just gotta see what you can build and what you can try and really dig in and try things out. If you have if you pay for LinkedIn, like you have some sort of premium account, you actually can get Lovable along with that, and then like a certain level of account with Lovable, and then you can play around with Lovable as well, right? Like so, there's really no excuse. There's just ways to get things. Does it take a little bit of investment? Yeah, but if you don't invest in your career, there's no reason someone else is going to invest in you. You've got to be willing to invest in yourself first. You got to have skin in the game. And as for the revenue part, you have to be curious enough to learn, right? Like, and then otherwise, I think that what is your particular industry expertise? If you have an industry expertise and you're like, yeah, but I just don't want to work in ad tech anymore or advertising or whatever, I'm just sick of that. forget it. The way you're going to get into the CS role is through your expertise and your experience. Use that for your advantage, right? And get into the tech side of it that way because you understand the pain points and the workflows.
Yeah.
But I don't know of any manager or leader who is hiring today that isn't looking for AI skills. At
Yeah.
least not here in the US. That's a given. You have to be able to show what you're doing, what you're building.
That's the demand. And also, let's remember, 83% of CS are expected to have revenue in
Mhm.
their portfolio or their like goal. And also 92% of SaaS companies are using AI features. So I would love
Yeah.
to hear, Rafi, your takeaway on this one.
I think on the revenue number, if you've never owned a revenue number, it's very likely that you probably influenced one at some point in your career. So I tell folks that are trying to break in, look for examples where you've improved adoption, you solved a customer problem, you prevented an escalation, you've increased engagement, maybe supported a renewal, or even helped the customer get value faster. Those are the things that you can actually translate into business impact, even if you can't necessarily attach a dollar amount to it. Sometimes it's just kind of how you frame the work that you've been doing, even if it hasn't been specifically in CS. But then, like Jan said, go back to learning the basics. So you do need to learn about retention, expansion, onboarding, product adoption, customer health, all those different things. But maybe consider picking a product that you actually know, maybe a product that you're using, create a success plan, kind of create kind of a mock account plan for that particular product. And then kind of showcase how you think through. Because as a hiring manager, I'm more interested in how you solve problems and how you think through problems versus that net retention number that you have on your resume, especially if you can't speak to how you obtain that NRR or how you got that particular metric on your resume. So make sure you are not only, building the proof, but you're actually taking the time as someone trying to break in to learn the different aspects of customer success in general.
Yeah. And then I would also say, if you're going for an individual contributor role, or if you're a CS leader switching, or if you're trying to switch into being a CS leader and you haven't been in CS before and want to understand what an individual contributor should do, Chad Horenfeld's book, Strategic CSM, like that's or Strategic Customer Success Manager, I think is the full, I highly recommend that
Hmm.
because it is taking into consideration all of the ways that, the modern ways that the role is changing and how to really think strategically about the role. I As for leadership, there's so many books out there from the past that are definitely useful for the past, and I haven't seen anything that is really set for the future and where we're going. And I'd say newsletters.
Hmm.
Get my newsletter. Take a look at what John Gleason is posting. See if there's anybody else that's writing. Or for podcasts besides your own, of course. AI Daily Brief. You
Mm,
want to listen to AI Daily Brief and go back to past episodes because he's going through not just what's changing in the AI world, but also like what are agents and how to use them, what are harnesses, things like that you're like, what do you mean harness? But trust me, you'll get it once you listen to those. But there's go to the back topics, back issues to get some of those earlier topics and build up because he brings on people who talk about skills and he gives you opportunities to kind of go and practice those things on the side and stuff. And I mean, that's, or like my accelerator for CS leaders, the CS Business Leadership Accelerator, come and join that. I mean, join in with people and learn stuff. Like,
mm,
if there's anything you should take seriously right now, it's how you approach your career.
yeah, yeah,
You absolutely have to invest in yourself right now. This is
yeah,
the time.
absolutely. Well, if everyone listening, if you cannot catch up with all of these notes, you can always go back, re-listen, or just like slow down the velocity here. But this is when someone wants to transition, and we are now ready to start closing today's episode. And I will try to add all of these resources. Call out to Chad and his amazing book. I already read it, incredible as well. And I just have one more question for both of you. And now let's say someone is in customer success right now. I think you already, Rafi, gave the answer, but I still want to hear a little bit more on this. What is one signal that things are not going well in that company and it's time to move? Just one signal from each one of you.
I would say your company's not using AI would be the biggest signal for me, or building with AI, or incorporating AI in their products. If they're not doing that, that's a huge signal.
Yeah.
Run.
Yeah. Yeah. I would say that if also take a look at how many new logos are coming on versus how much pressure there is to expand the customer base revenue. Because while you should be trying to grow customer revenue, if you don't have new logos coming in, that's also a signal. Because you should be able to build quickly in a company now. Yes, there's still going to be backlogs, but only in the sense of because now so much more is possible, right? And so if your company hasn't taken that into account and they're not really able to build quickly for what your customers need, your customers are going to go someplace else, whether it's your current customers or whether it's new logos who have many choices. They're not going to choose you. And so there's some clear signals early on that you can look at, and you should pay attention to them. Definitely. And if you're a CS leader who's trying to choose companies, you should really, I wouldn't join without having conversations with the CTO or CPO, whoever's heading up product and engineering. I would want to have those conversations and really understand kind of what their approach is and how they're approaching building and working with customers before joining, because that is the key relationship that needs to be strong, that you have to have.
Of that. Thank you both of you for this amazing episode, for just giving so much energy to also making it fun, to bring all of that, like all the things that sometimes we are not talking about. And I want to make this something that reaches to a lot of people.
Thank you for having us. This has been
Yeah,
great. Thank you. This has been fun.
absolutely. Just truly appreciate that you asked us to come on, and it was a lot of
Absolutely.
fun to come on together.
And like I always say, everyone, remember, keep learning, keep growing, and let's keep improving the world of customer success. Until next time.